Hey, this is Warren Bird with Leadership Network. I have the privilege of talking with Reggie McNeal, Missional Leadership Specialist with Leadership Network, and more important, author of a great book called Kingdom Come. And Reggie, the subtitle, Why We Must Give Up Our Obsession with Fixing the Church and What We Should Do Instead. I've read, I think, every book you've written. And
Oh my! Well, I haven't. You're ahead of me on that. I'm going to get to them though this year.
All right, good. And you and your mother. This book is the most pointed in what we should do. Unpack that subtitle a little bit. Kingdom Come: Why We Must Give Up Our Obsession with Fixing the Church and What We Need to Do Instead.
Well, I'm going to give the quickest answer I can. I'm going to give a little bit of theological underpinning for it, and or maybe historical underpinning would be better. But since the Reformation, for 500 years, we have been consumed. I'm not saying inappropriately so, but fixing the church has been everybody's business. So, and what happens since Luther and with the Reformers is we have multiple denominations now. We're all more right than the others. Polity and doctrine has driven the discussion. It's been a church discussion. I mean, every office, every gift, every kind of church, of Christian expression of following Jesus has been put in some kind of church file. Who can do what, when, can they wear a skirt, can it be outdoors, how many people have to be there, what are the level of sacrament, all that stuff is not wrong. But that was the legacy of the Reformation, and I think we're coming to the end of that. And I think mission trumps all that now. And the mission for me is to reconnect with the larger saga, because the church story just doesn't have traction anymore. We can talk about that in the larger culture. It's losing traction. But the kingdom story, the larger story, the oldest story, still has great traction. And I would like for us to realign ourselves with that a lot more closely.
So one of the lines in the book that I underlined said, I confess that my ideas were still church-centered rather than kingdom-centered. I thought if we could just fix the church, the kingdom of God would naturally be released. Unpack that a little.
Yeah, and I grew up with that world, and I think we probably all did, or most of the folks listening to this, the video did, because the church-centered world really kind of equated kingdom and church. There was an interplay, but somehow we came at kingdom through church lenses. And I'm suggesting we come at the church through kingdom lenses, and that's very different. I grew up thinking the kingdom was a subset of church activity, that the church was the real mission of God in the world. And that was his big concern. And to flip that and, to flip the script and understand that really the kingdom is God's big mission in the world, predates the church, will post-date the church expression and existence. And we, in fact, are a subset of kingdom stuff. That comes at the church very differently and helps us see our role in the kingdom as opposed to the kingdom having a way of influencing church life.
So push that a little farther, because
Sure.
Elsewhere in the book you say we should do what the church should be doing, and that is partnering with God in his redemptive mission in the world. So you identify that more with kingdom than with church.
Yeah, because I think the kingdom is God, and I've tried to look for some way of expressing it that we could wrap our minds around that doesn't feel like earthly kingdoms retrofitted back to heavenly stuff that we don't know. I think the kingdom is life as God intends. Life is the primal gift. Life is the one thing you and I didn't ask for. All of our listeners, none of us asked for. We all woke up with it, and we're desperately clinging to it and searching for it. There's a tree of life in the garden. There is an angel sent to guard that entrance to that garden, to protect that when Eden is collapsing. At the end of the book, we have a city with a river of life, trees of life. Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, the life. I've come to give you life. So I think life is the central theme of kingdom. And the saga of the kingdom is the extent that God will go to make sure that you and I have access to that life, including a personal visit to the planet wrapped in flesh to live out the life so we could see it the way it's supposed to be. So I forgot your question, but that was just the point I wanted to make. For me, then, partnering with God in securing that life for everyone that we possibly can, and everything that sin did to diminish that life, whether it's our break, our relationship with God being upset, our relationship with each other being upset, with ourselves, with our planet. So the kingdom is taking back all that territory. It's a redemptive, in a sense, restorative, but certainly redemptive effort by God. It's an invading force, by the way. And so God has created a people to partner with him in that effort. And that's our specialness, is we just got cut in on the deal. It's not that we are the object of all of everything that God's doing. No, the object of what God's doing is much bigger than the church. I mean, he is restoring and redeeming everything that sin diminished, and he will bring all of that back exactly as he intended. And you and I get cut in on the deal to watch this and to actually know what's going on, which is, kind of a privileged way of going through this life, being a partner on the biggest thing going. So, yeah, you bet. I know you're trying to ask a question. I'm going to let you. But sometimes people hear things I don't say, or don't hear things I'm trying to say. One is, it includes spiritual realities, but it's much bigger. The lame walk, the blind see, lepers are made whole. Kids have access to, to literacy, so they're not stuck. Healthcare, people have jobs, all that stuff. All right, now, what were you going to say? Sorry,
I was just going to push.
That was a long run-on sentence.
Absolutely. And it's great because it leads right to where I was going to go next. I'm looking for some specific examples. You say in the book, our obsessing over fixing the church has created a church-centered storyline that not only misses the point, and elsewhere you talk about being self-absorbed and self-centered as a church, but also, and I'm still quoting, runs counter to the narrative that God intends for us to live into and out of. So give me a church. Take an example. Take a vibrant church that's having people come to faith, that's growing. What would you like to see that church to do to take your subtitle, stop obsessing and do something instead?
I could give specific names, but I don't have permission to do that and stuff. And I really don't, because then people. But I just have multiple clients that are doing the very thing that you're talking about, or people that I know. I'm thinking right now of a congregation in an urban setting. The pastor came there. The situation has changed dramatically in the community around the church. He's done a masterful job of helping the church understand the new context of ministry. They are increasing their efforts at their own discipling. I mean, by literally much more intentional discipling efforts. But in addition, they have taken on their city and the most under-resourced part of their city to say, we are going to improve the lives of people. And it's a 25-year commitment, by the way. This is not the fall program. This is not a tweak. This is a different way of expressing what we think our contribution is supposed to be. And as kingdom agents, they've taken this under-resourced part of town. They're moving people there. They're working with congregations, other congregations who are already there. They're not bypassing and just pretending that these other ministries didn't exist all these years and now they've ridden in to save the day. They're collaborating with government, with education, with faith community, and they're unbundling their own resources and to bless that part of the city. They've opened just a month ago their first business. They will open multiple businesses because this gives people jobs, and that's a critical piece of helping people have the life that God intends. I mean, the first thing Adam and Eve got was a job. I mean, God said he didn't make a garden and then decide to make people to run that sucker. He said he put a garden there getting ready because work helps people get done. God didn't create people to get work done. It's just the opposite. He created work to get people done. And so people need jobs. They need it. So they're opening businesses. They're tutoring in the schools. They're working with case management with one of the hospitals there for social work. I mean, this is the kind of thing I think that the church is in a unique position to do, because we have people across all these domains. that are sitting in our pews. They're already there. They already know the lay of the land. We don't have to create expertise. It's in our pews. We need to unbundle it and strategize around it and synergize and catalyze that effort and say we're going to change in this in a positive way. We're going to serve our way into making a better city here, which,
So,
by the way,
Reggie, yes, that's very close to what you're doing through Leadership Network. Not only is this urban church you mentioned probably not an isolated example, but you're networking a whole lot of churches who are doing just that. Tell us what you're doing through Leadership Network's city reaching emphases.
Yeah, and it's our city impact, the hub experience that Leadership Network, of course, around a variety of expressions and topics, but that's one of our core topics, is city impact, and it exactly does that. It brings teams together who have decided that they want to move the needle on big social issues, big issues in their community. And along with blessing people spiritually, they want to make a difference in education or in health or business. I mean, you're right. I mean, one of the folks I'm working with, they've unshuttered like over 100,000 feet of retail space just because they've gone in and created health where there was just decay, urban decay. So we're helping these teams that are part of that hub experience to know how to do that, because we have a lot of people that want to do that, but there's some very special competencies involved and some sensitivities and sensibilities. And so we're helping to bring teams together to learn from each other and to actually fast forward, accelerate their capacity to do the very thing they want to do there.
Awesome. And that's leadnet.org/hub, HUB, for more details on it. Reggie, final question. Tie in this book, Kingdom Come, to kind of the progression of you've written about Missional Renaissance and other topics that kind of feed into this.
Yeah.
Take us on a recent progression and give this book, which, as I said, it's my favorite, but I've read all of yours and benefited from them.
Thank you.
It's my favorite today.
Of your book. Yeah, mine too. As of this moment.
Tie them all together.
I think what's happened for me, it is a journey. And I've always just tried to learn what the Spirit seems to be saying to the church. And there's language in here that I'm using now that's taken years to develop. And I think language is one of the key things that's required to shift a culture. And nothing less than a culture shift is going to pull off what I'm talking about here, to move from a church-centric to a kingdom-centric or kingdom-biased ministry paradigm. So you have to change language. The second thing that I've noticed over the years is you have to change scorecard. Now, Missional Renaissance was all about changing the scorecard. I've become more convinced and a little more sophisticated, working with a bunch of people on how you do that and what's critical to do. And some people don't like the word scorecard, so if you don't, but whatever it is you celebrate, that's really what we think is important. And that's what, and I can tell you that if all of our scorecard celebrations are church related, church attendance, church participation, buildings, all those classic things. But we've got to, and we're going to keep doing that. I just spoke to a bunch of Methodist elders the last couple of days. I said, I'm not naive. You're going to keep counting how many folks show up at church on Sunday and how much money they bring and the impact that that's having on pressure on your buildings. But I'm arguing that we expand the bandwidth of what we think we should be looking at, because when God tells through the prophet Jeremiah to the exiles in Jeremiah 27 says, pray for the city, seek to bless it, seek for its prosperity. I think that we're exiles in our own culture, and we need to be praying for the welfare of our city. And just like he says there, if it prospers, we'll prosper. That's exactly backwards from the church-centric tale that I was told, that if the church got okay, the city would be all right. We don't have evidence for that. And so, I say, let's pitch back in with what God told us to do. Let's try to work for a better city. And then, so we better, pay attention to that. How many third graders, how many first graders are coming off the at-risk list for literacy, or how many people have case management, so they're not doctoring themselves out there that have fallen between the cracks. in healthcare? How many jobs have we created? All these kinds of things, as well as how many people are becoming Jesus followers, which is still a very important part of life. And so all of that to me says we have to have a new scorecard. And then finally, and that's why this book even more profoundly, there's some leadership behaviors and leadership biases that have to shift to pull this off. So all those three legs of the stool, leadership, scorecard, language, have emerged for me over time as the three keys to helping pull off the kind of realignment that I think the church is ready for. I think this is the time that the church needs to reimagine its way into the future. We're at a watershed moment, and we're going to have to pay attention to all three.
Well, Reggie McNeal, you are indeed a thought leader, but Your Kingdom Come is a very accessible, engaging, readable book, and you don't have to read anything that you've written prior to really connect with it. It grabbed me in the opening pages and kept every page I read. I found stretching and stimulating. So may God use you to influence the church to an even greater vision of the
Well, I appreciate it, Warren, and you and I are in a great time because we get to see what other people in between these sea changes can only dream about. And as frustrating and challenging as it is, how thrilling to see people respond to the opportunity that's in front of us. So thank you for helping me to get the message out. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.